Yeah, definitely worried. It scares us, scares my employees, puts food on the table, turns the lights on. It's our livelihood. If we lose our jobs and we potentially lose our houses and everything else, it's kind of a domino effect. So, it's all in a fair bidding process. It's not something that we just win because we're local or we're small business. We actually have to bid it out, and we have to bid it fairly. We bid it against some larger companies and smaller companies, and we have to be the lowest bidder in order to win that mill. So if we don't win the milk, it's on us, and it's because we didn't bid it out. It's frustrating fighting for your business year after year when you've provided for the local community since 1921, and you go and talk to district board of supervisors, city council, and you sit here and you fight for these things, and you finally get them back, and then then 6 months down the road you're fighting for it again, and you expect a break at some point in time, and it just to finally win against the state and get the milk contracts back, and then potentially lose them all over again is a scary thought, because the first time we told the town it's going to affect everybody, and not just me. It's that schools, other families, hospitals, nursing homes, gas stations, grocery stores. We're going to see a lot of higher pricing, like it's not already high. So we're going to see everything. That's from ice to milk to ice cream to all the food product that we see around here that we've been serving all these years. So very, very scary to watch all these families want to leave and be scared. And it's just not just the worker, it's them, their wives, their kids, their husbands. So it's just not just the prison workers here that we're talking about. It's everything outside that contributes. I would just ask them to reconsider and think about what it's going to do to this local community. It scares the hell out of you, to be honest. You gotta sit here and you gotta worry about whether you have a job the next day or not.
In 1960, fewer than 25,000 people were incarcerated in the state of California. Today, that number is almost 100,000. To account for the growing prison population, the state of California began a massive effort to expand its number of prison facilities in the turn of the 20th century. Since 1965, 23 prisons have been built in the state of California, 21 since 1985. Of the two established in the 1960s, the larger California Correctional Center was built in 1963 in the quiet town of Susanville, located in Lassen County and situated in the Shasta Cascade mountain range. The decision followed a series of unsuccessful bids by the state to place the prison in the surrounding counties, all of which were rejected until ultimately construction of the facility began in Lassen County. The prison, one of three in the community, drastically altered the landscape of the town. Following the closure of Sierra Pacific Timber Mill in 2004, which had been one of the community's largest employers, the prison industry became the dominant source of employment in the county. Although state officials have cited the state budget and a projected savings of almost $125 million as the primary motivation of the decision, Many say the move follows a trend in both state and nationally to reduce the number of incarcerated people and ultimately shrink the number of prisons. The decision, which Lassen County elected officials say was made without their consent, has local leaders and business owners like Josh McKernan of Morning Glory Distribution scrambling to find solutions. In Lassen County, residents say the community has become entirely dependent on the prison industry to survive. The effects of the closure are believed to have wide-ranging implications, from the local economy to the school system. One person anticipating that result is Lassen Community College President Trevor Albertson.
I'm Trevor Albertson. I'm the superintendent president interim here at Lassen College in Susanville, California. And I've been here about 2.5 years and in this position about 1.5 years. My first thoughts when I was informed as to the prison's closure, CCC's closure, really centered on we're going to have a plan going forward if this indeed takes place. I think when you look at communities that had been impacted by things like base closings, by the BRAC, the base realignment and closure process, the communities that have fared the best, those in Sacramento, around McClellan and Mather and the old Army Depot, have done very well. When you look at other communities like Merced, Atwater, around Castle Air Force Base, they didn't have a plan and they haven't done as well. And in fact, if it hadn't been for the UC in Merced, that city would be far more decimated. The biggest concerns for Lassen College I have about this decision really revolve around enrollment for those that need the education. And it revolves around really long-term viability for the college. We've got 200 full-time enrollments that come every year out of CCC. I'm concerned what happens to those students, but I'm also concerned about what that does to the college by losing 200 enrollments. Lassen College is the largest servicer of California's correctional facilities. We're actually in 45 facilities, maybe 46 at this point. Most of those don't come close to what we do at CCC. 200 full-time enrollments at a CCC. The loss of that alone is going to take a chunk out of what we do. The biggest impact on the college fiscally will be the loss of enrollments. Financial aid will remain the same. We'll still be able to offer the same financial aid packages we're offering right now. What concerns me is the long-term viability of programs that suddenly are seeing a drop in enrollment. And because there's that sharp drop in enrollment, will we be able to persist in those programs without the same number of folks enrolling in them? All I ask is that they make consideration for the people. On the one hand, is it a great thing that we're seeing lower numbers of incarcerated individuals? Absolutely. I don't think anybody I know would say, let's put more people in prison. At the same time, recognizing that while it's not a jobs program to build a prison and operate a prison, how we go about executing downsizing has to be carefully engaged in. This is going to be a quick process if it goes through. 1 year, roughly, 14 months. The cultural, societal, economic, and familial shifts that will occur in 14 months are what concern me the most. And there needs to be support on the back end from the state to fill those gaps.
When I first heard it, I was shocked. The city had no prior notice of this closure. My mind went to my friends and family who work at CCC, and I was very troubled for them and everyone else who worked there. Some of them are second and third generation residents who have lived here their entire lives, and now they're forced to face this crisis. It is really sad to see their homes on the market. Well, right now, city staff's working to assess the potential impacts. It's difficult because there are so many variables. We will work hard to mitigate through them, but the city council will have some tough choices to make. We hope it doesn't come to that, but we could be left without a choice.
My name is Jarrett Elena. I am operations manager of Tripoli Investment Company. We own some motel properties in Susanville, California, and in Alturas, California. I'm also a trustee with the Lassen Union High School District. I've grew up in this community and chose to raise my family in this community. Well, my first response was, I think my initial reaction was just, wow, this is going to be cataclysmic to the economy of the Honey Lake Valley, at least, and Lassen County in general. But the Honey Lake Valley really has grown very dependent upon the Department of Corrections and the employment that's there. It's become a big part of our community over the years. When you think about the effect of shrinking the economy here and the cataclysmic effect, the cascading effect of, you know, that makes this smaller and that smaller. We reduce our number of residents. We reduce the number of taxpayers in our community. We reduce the need for services. You know, when you look at your water services, your sewer, your streets, all of these things that exist here now that are part of the infrastructure of this community, when you contract all of that, what you end up with is jurisdictions that don't have the budget to maintain what's there anymore. Well, what is that going to look like in 15, 20 years? Is it going to look like a bunch of streets in disrepair, systems in disrepair that we can't really afford to keep going? So even for those that are going to be able to survive and keep going in this community, what's it going to look like? And I fear that it's really going to look depressed. It's because it was once this, and now it's trying to survive in this smaller, you know, and this large footprint's trying to survive, even though we don't really have the residents to support it anymore. You know, many main streets in California, and probably throughout the country, you're seeing storefronts empty. If you look on our main street now, every year it seems like there's another storefront that's empty. And we're really going to accelerate the process of, you know, the commercial real estate just being vacant. And then what's the value for those who actually have a commercial real estate that they're a building they're leasing, or you know, a business owner who bought a building to run a restaurant, or whether it be a bank or whatever it could be in our community. Now they have that cost and their assets not worth as much. So when you look at the true impact of this closure and what it's going to mean to this valley, it's going to be pretty depressing. And man, it's such a gut punch coming out of COVID-19, coming out of a pandemic. Okay, here we are. We're breathing again, so to speak. We're actually feeling the life of the economy kind of come back, and then bam, here it is. It just punched us right in the gut in the community. And you could just feel it collectively here. Everybody was just in shock and just trying to deal with the blow at first. It's a huge concern. Every person who owns a home here, whether or not they plan on staying here or not, stands to lose a substantial amount of their net worth. You know, if your net worth is tied to your home, and for most people it is, if they're homeowners, they're taking a huge hit, regardless of if they ever been employed by the state or not. The Department of Corrections set up shop in this valley. They invested in this valley. The people, and in turn, have accepted that and have run with it. And we've supported that as it's been a very good relationship for many, many years. And the problem with closing a prison in the Honey Lake Valley is that there really isn't anything else out there to absorb the shock. You know, it's not like we live in a population center that has Intel over here, or another large manufacturer, or another tech company nearby that's going to absorb the blow. There's nothing here to absorb the blow. So you know who absorbs it? Every single citizen that lives here absorbs it. Remember, not every place in California would accept the prison to be built. It was accepted here, it was agreed to, and it's changed the economy here. And it's been a blessing because the timber economy has been virtually wiped out here, right? So we don't have, you know, when I was a boy in this valley, we had 2 lumber mills here. So you had a presence of a different industry, a private industry here. And for the most part, that's gone. We really don't have that. So we've been blessed with opportunity to maintain jobs for people in this valley and to bring other people here to work for the Department of Corrections. So what I would say to the state is, hey, you made a decision to come out here and to build out here and invest here. We've embraced that. We've worked well with that, and we're happy to have it. So why would you basically chop us down now? Because that's exactly what happens. I mean, it's hard to go backward here. You've built an economy here that wasn't here. And you don't have a diversified economy here like you have in other parts of California. So when you decide to close down CCC, you are eroding, you are really destroying an economy. There is, they say, well, high desert's still there. It's such a huge percentage that CCC provides to this community that it's, like I've said before, it's cataclysmic. And the chain reactions is going to be huge.
Although there remains much to be debated on the future role of incarceration in America, one thing remains clear. The industry has undoubtedly left its mark on a number of rural communities across the country in places like Susanville. And as several states and municipalities begin to move away from the long-standing models of imprisonment and rehabilitation, consideration will need to be had for those communities left in the wake. For now, residents are left to hold their breath and wait. Some hopeful that the decision can be reversed. If not, Lassen County will need to adapt to a series of rapidly approaching social and economic changes. For current and former employees of CCC, like retired Sergeant Jason Bernard, the feeling is that their entire lives have been upended.
My name is Jason Bernard. I just recently retired about 5 months ago from the Department of Corrections. Worked at the California Correctional Center as a sergeant for 16 years and an officer prior to that. I've worked at 4 northern camps, and when I retired, I actually retired from Cataclysmic camp, which is based out of the California Correctional Center here in Susanville. My wife and I transferred up here in 2000 from Blythe after spending 6 years down there. Fell in love with Susanville. Not sure if this was going to be our permanent spot, but here we are 21 years later, and we're here and we love it. And as a state employee, the friends and the coworkers and the partners, and it seems to me that a majority of the staff that start out, whether it be at High Desert or the California Correctional Center, they embrace this town and this county, and we just we adopt it, or they adopt us, and when you jump in feet first, and that means coaching and volunteering and being on local boards and running for office, and that's the uniqueness about Susanville. It's this town. It grows on you, and it's something that you just can't deny when you see everybody that you work with that's from Sacramento or Los Angeles, Fresno, Bakersfield, Redding, that make this their home, and 20-something years later, they're still here. And it's just a beautiful thing. When I first heard that CCC was going to close down, I was dumbfounded. It was, and the reason I say that is because for the last 10 years, I was the chapter president of the California Correctional Supervisors Organization for CCC. And with that entails, I took that very seriously. Lots of political research. Any chance that I got, I took those opportunities to go to legislative days in Sacramento. And as much as I hate wearing a suit, being able to see that aspect of lawmaking and jumped feet first into that as well, and reading OIG reports and the legislative analyst reports, and kind of watching just not how things run, but each individual gear and how it runs. And I was very surprised, simply because I have been to many conferences. Now, when we go to a conference, there's representatives from every institution in the state of California. There's representatives for retired staff, there's representatives for camp staff, there's, and such and such. So you have that opportunity to sit and visit with all these staff from all over the state, and you become friends, and you hear a lot of things from different areas. And one of the things that I had heard was some friends of mine that were working at Corcoran, that just in what the physical plant looked like at Corcoran was just horrible, and just things falling apart. And I mean, they're just constantly, you're talking old clay sewer pipes and stuff like that that's been around. You've got San Quentin, Folsom, so many institutions, DVI, that have just been around forever and ever. And the conversation would come back to CCC, and us being built in '63. I thought we were doing pretty good. I mean, based on what I've been told from other institutions and the way their structures, plumbing, electrical, the way all that works out, it blew me away that all of a sudden, with no warning, because we've been talking about this for the last couple of years, what's going to happen? Well, since the budget and Governor Newsom came into office, if we do see a reduction, what is it going to look like, and how's it going to affect us personally? Well, a lot of people just put their head in the sand, but I was one of those people that really went above and beyond doing the research, because I had I think it was 150 supervisor members that relied on me for that information, and I wanted to be abreast of everything that was going on. And I've been asked several times, what's the status of CCC? And my answer has always been, based on my experience and everything that I've spoken to other staff, everything that I've studied, legislative analyst reports, all this stuff, meeting with wardens. I've met almost every director that we've had, been able to sit and visit with these guys. And based on everything as a whole, I was floored, because I have told everybody we're fine. There are so many other institutions that are in deep trouble. Don't worry about CCC. And therein lies the question that I have. Before signing anything or making anything official, just ask. I would have sat down with anybody and let them know that this is our town and our community and the economy of this town. 17,500 people, it says on the sign coming into Susanville. To take 25% of that, and I know they say it's 1,080 staff or whatever it is, but I've been out there. I had a family of 5. So just for example, I worked at CCC, but I brought 4 other beings with me to become Lassen County residents. And they've grown, and they're all working, and 3 of the 5 of us are, actually 4 of the 5 of us are still here in Susanville. We jumped in, and my wife doing the Best of Broadway and the school board, and she even went out and coached little kids soccer, and take all that away, and what does it look like? You're talking about essentially telling people that were born and raised here that you need to go somewhere else in the state. Pull your kids out of school. Tell your wife to give up her job or to shut down her business. Boom, we just lost more employees. We can't absorb that like Sacramento can, or San Francisco or Los Angeles. We can't do that up here, and we certainly don't have that coming.